Welcome to the show. This is Talk About It with Chidi, where we have conversations. Um, Everyone is welcome to add their opinion on here too. I'm here with my co-host Sake. Sake, shout out to the fans, to our listeners.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Chidi.
Sake.
Thank you, Chidi, for having me.
So actually today we're going to be debating. Actually, between me and you, we're going to be debating state police, the pros and cons of state police, and the true federalism. So, what is your
All right.
take on the issue of state police?
Well, I think state policing or state police as it were, is long overdue. We just need to, navigate the pros and the cons of it, the negative aspect and the positive aspect. Positive actually oversees the negative aspect of things because why I say it does, or why I say there's a negative aspect of it is because the governors that are going to be overseeing this state police probably will use it as a tool for them to intimidate and to.
Sorry, so what happened to your light? Your light is kind of the color of the screen. I mean, you used to have like a bright, your light used to be really bright. Yeah, I think this one is better. No, not this one.
It's better, right?
No, not this one.
All right, all right. So, like I was saying, I think it's a two-way thing. Community policing is very, very okay, or state policing as it were, because it will still boils down to the community aspect of things. But them using it as a tool to intimidate and to perpetrate certain things is what the legislatures should maybe look for a way, you know, to try to put certain parameters or things in place to curtail the powers of the governors, in particular the governors, in using this to pursue their own agenda. If this is not put in place, at the end of the day, it's going to be a lose-lose, in quotes now, not a win-win. It's going to be a lose-lose. Because by the time they now make it their personal tool for intimidation, then the whole thing about community policing is defeated, and at the end of the day, we're going back to the same uh, issue that we have been trying to curtail or trying to eliminate. So that's just basically it.
Well, this is what we're going to do today, though. We're going to listen to um, the debates that politicians had, but during the interval, we're going to be pausing it. We're not going to listen to the whole full episode. We're just going to pick one or two or four uh, people that are interested to listen to what they said and debate on it. So let's start with this first one by the first speaker, whose is whose name is who is the assistant deputy, who is the deputy speaker. So let's hear what he's going to say.
That it is critical that we prioritize security. And this government has chosen it as a subject matter that should take the first position in all the agenda of this administration. Whether it is issue of governance, you can't take policing outside governance. That is the truth. Because governance is, policing is part of governance. Like I mentioned, the primary purpose of government is to protect lives and property. And in protecting lives and properties, you use security structure, security systems. And in this case, police is one of those structures that will be used for the protection of lives and property. Now, if policing is going to be used to protect lives and properties, how well have we done with it? Should be the question. The obsolete laws that centralize authorization points for policing has failed us over the years. And it is the purpose of government to do needs analysis to know, in the course of protecting lives and properties, how well has our laws served us? How well has the structure delivered on the expectation of Nigeria? As Parliament, which is the people's house, we have consulted and we found that there is a general consensus among Nigerians in the course of our public hearing that it is an issue that must be attended to. We must retool what we have currently as a structure that protects lives and properties. So we started questioning, how do we do it? Is it by unbundling it? Is it by making it, closer to the people? Is it by funding it more? What are the issues with the current structures that we have? One of the things we noticed was that proximity is key in policing. What do I mean by that? If the authorization point is at Abuja and events are happening far from Abuja, by the time the authorization comes, you find out that incidents of crime has already taken place. And it gets to a point, if you don't respond within the expected time, and some have argued 30 minutes is enough, some said Nigeria is currently at 90, but by the time you respond and it is irredeemable, it means that the police has not achieved the purpose for which it.
So I like us to talk a little bit about what he just said based on proximity, right? If that's what I talk about through federalism. Proximity matters a lot because, for example, there are some crimes that are state crimes, like murder. Somebody cannot commit a murder crime in Edo State and you arrest the person and you take the person to Abuja to go and judge the case, or Abuja police comes from Abuja to come and arrest somebody, or somebody from Ogun State command go to Lagos to go and arrest Dele Farotimi. So proximity to the people, I will still talk about it that state police is not just enough. It has to be divulged into local government. The local government are supposed to be the ones who control police, right? Down to universities, right? Universities are supposed to have their own police station. They call it campus police. High schools, secondary schools, supposed to have police officer station in every school. They are called resource officers. I'm using America now to give you an example. They are called resource officers. If, for example, you have five local government in Edo State, that five local government chairman. That five local government should have five police station, like five different police district that is being heard and overseen by the local government chairman. That is how local police should be run by the local government. That does not mean you cannot have police in the state level, just the way you will have like a federal agency in the federal level that would be there to supersede and investigate those different police stations if anyone breaches any human right, or it should be in the constitution that in every certain time these stations, I mean, the federal police should do a review of all the police stations. So what I mean to say is, if we're going to go local and straight to community policing, the police power should not just be given to governors, it should also be given to local government chairman and also to universities. What do you say?
Well, basically, you just stated the way it ought to be in a normal society, as it were, in a normal society. But the society that we are in now, we are being governed, or like I want to say, normally we are supposed to have leaders, but we are being ruled in a democratic government. So we cannot really say we are being governed like that. So the abuse is what is going to be the issue. But having, like you just rightly mentioned, have your state police, have your local government, the university has to, ought to have their policies and their, what's it called, the secondary school also needed to, okay, maybe have some police to go as in to look into any security breach in the schools. But in the society that we live in now, we are being ruled, not governed. So all these things has to be in the law that they are trying to pass to control certain things, because eventually the governors, I mean the local government chairman, answer to the governor. So whatever the governor wants or determines or decides is what these guys are going to answer to. So if you give them autonomy, like okay, let them be running their own policing in quote now, own police, definitely the local government are going to answer to the states. At the end of the day, they all marry them together, and accountability. The governor can decide, okay, this person has offended me, go and do this. That is basically the pain or the pain that we are going to have to, adjust to and try to work with. So if the law does not encompass all of this to, curtail the powers of the state governor on this said police uh, department in the state, then at the end of the day, we are going to be going back to the same issues that we have been going through, because the state governors are basically going to be using them for their own political tools, or whatever they want to use them for, they will use them for, so long they answer directly to them. If they have the ability, except the law tells the state police that you cannot be fired by the state governor. If not, if you don't answer to me as a state governor,
But
I will
no,
fire you.
the governor
You
is
understand?
supposed to have. So there are ways. We'll go into ways that can be used to protect the police from being used by the government. First of all, people with integrity should be hired. People that will be able to tell the governor and say no, I cannot do that. That is illegal, or that's whatever. But that aside, we'll come to those kind of mechanism that can be put in place, right? So let's just proceed a little bit and listen a little bit of what he has to say. Then we'll move on to the next speaker.
It was set up. So we said, okay, let us unbundle what we have at the moment so that response time to incidents of crime will be quicker. We said it is also to bring it closer to the people who understand the terrain. I've always said that those who live in the forest will understand the forest better as well as to protect it better. A situation where you have somebody in the creeks who understands the waterways, protecting that area will be easy.
So no need to dwell too much on what he's saying, right? But what I understand here is that it's community policing. Police need to be close to the people that they are protecting, because you cannot go ahead and bring someone from the north and expect that person from the north to be able to uh, understand what is happening in
In the
in
terrain.
the south, yeah, in the terrain. And before you will get to know one or two things, even the language barrier and everything, even the fact that why local government policing is still okay is still very important, because now you're dealing with that community, that local government, right? That police is in charge of everything in that local government. That's how it's supposed to be, because the state too will not be able to cover everywhere. You understand? They will not be able to cover everywhere to the extent where you call for police, you get police response in less than 5 minutes. If you say if over here now, if I want a police officer, I can call a police officer and in less than 5 minutes, they will be at my door. I can call an ambulance. In less than 5 minutes, they'll be at my door. And those ambulances that are coming are in my city. It's called city, run by a mayor, and that mayor is equivalent to a local government chairman. Even airport, if it falls in your jurisdiction, is run by the local government. So that way the people can hold the local government responsible if there's the portals have not been faced, if the airport is bad, if the police are bad, if the fire service is bad, then you guys can be able to go to the local government chairman in the town hall meeting and ask him questions. That way, when he misbehaves and does not keep to his promises, campaign promises, you can easily remove him in the next election. That is free and fair. So people need to now understand that true federalism has to be practiced in Nigeria to the extent that it goes all the way, management goes all the way down to the local government. That's how I see it.
And you know what,
So let's
Stephen?
listen to the governor of Zamfara, one of the states
I
that
want to
has
say
been. Go
something.
ahead, go ahead.
I wanted to say something. You know, this. I just want to chip in this. You know, if there's no database, take for instance, in even wanting to recruit certain persons to be in a community police department, as it were, or the state police department, database is one of the major things that is drawing a lot of things backward. Why I say database is because, take for instance, in America, you guys have what's it called? You know, criminal records of certain persons, you know, that have been arrested or convicted. And you can easily, maybe in terms of recruiting, you can easily enter their names and you find out their informations and the rest of it, if they have been convicted before or the rest of it, or the criminal records they had or have, as it were. But we don't have that here. You know, they basically will eventually start recruiting the thugs that they used during the political session or election to into the security parastatal that they're going to be bringing in. That is another thing that we need to be very, very, very cautious of. Because at the end of the day, we might eventually employ the criminals that we're trying to prevent into the security system. And at the end of the day, everything is lost. So those are the things that we need to put into consideration. Our database is zero, zero. When I mean zero, even the BVN, some people still bypass this BVN one way or the other to commit crime, and you cannot, because okay, take for instance, how did they get to these bandits that they are even trying to maybe probably fight in quotes now? How do they launder their money? So all these things are things that it's supposed to take a longer time because it's too quick for them to. Because I've not even seen the public session that they've held
Like
in terms of okay,
they've not done a lot of underground work and detailed work that they are
yes,
supposed to do before unveiling
do
something like this.
before, yeah,
Well, we'll come to
before
that.
this.
We'll come to that. I want us to follow it step by step. We'll come to that aspect why. So let's just follow. Let's just do it as
Okay, no
we
problem.
are responding to what we are listening to. All right.
All right.
Command and control structure is not under the governors. I'm happy with the latest development about the state police because it allows us to hold, to keep to our responsibility and for our people also to hold us accountable as far as the security situation is concerned in our respective states. And that's why I've been part and parcel of this process. And I strongly believe by the time we have this state police in place, it will go a long way in solving a lot of the challenges, and we can now bear our names as proper chief security officers of our respective states. So I'm for this. However, I know there are concerns whether people will abuse this process or not. Let me say this. In every state today, you find that there's one form of security outfit or the other. It is important also to know that on assumption of office in May 2023, part of what we had to do was to create our own internal security system, which we call the CPG, Community Protection Guard. And the essence of this is we carefully selected people from their respective local government, where they live with the people, where they understand the trend even better than conventional security forces within the state, to be able to be the first line of defense whenever there's such attack in those communities. So for me, it's a good development, and I am for it, and will now bear our names as the chief security officer because the command and control structure.
You said something just now. There's a very good point you raised up just now. You said because these people are going to be responsible for recruiting these state police officers, these governors, and what they will do is just bring up their political talk and make them the police officers that they are going to use for their dirty deals. That's one of the points you brought out, and you notice he talked about how most of the states already have like one form of security outfit already, meaning they've been practicing quasi state police, and he's trying to make you understand that they've not abused that security outfit yet, meaning they are not going to abuse state police when one is created, right? But something that we're going to be talking about more, we're going to be reacting more often to, is that idea of a chief security officer that does not have power over the police. What is your take on that now that now they are going to be fully called chief security officer because they are going to have firing and employing and recruiting power over the police they are going to control independently on their own?
Well, basically, that's he just stated that's the Zamfara state governor. He just made it very, he hit the nail on the head, as it were. Because if I'm being called the chief security officer of a particular state, or even like my house, I should be in charge of my security. So I cannot be answerable to a federal government that will probably direct maybe the commissioner of police, for instance, to just don't go. I'll just divert a little and mention the case of somebody that, okay, the school that was being protected, and all of a sudden they said they had a call from above that they should withdraw. When they withdrew, the school was attacked and they kidnapped uh, uh, the children in the school. Till tomorrow, nobody has known who made that order. So if the chief security officer of a state as a governor does not have control over his commissioner of police, for instance, then there's no point. It's basically just spending money, because the security vote probably is just going to be using it for other things, which he ought to be using to protect the citizens of the state. I still want to mention one case scenario. While what's it called? Uh, Governor Rotimi Amici, back then, while he was governor, the commissioner of police in the state was being controlled from Abuja. That's Mba. I think that should be his name. Yeah, Mba. He was disobeying the orders of his superior, that's the governor of the state, because he had influence with patients, Jonathan's wife in Abuja. So whatever the governor says, he doesn't correspond or doesn't act on it, because he had a higher authority, and because Rotimi was having issues with Jonathan in Abuja, he was just basically almost useless. So the state was almost lawless. Whatever the governor says doesn't work. So all these things need to be corrected in whatever law they are going to be enacting or approving
And
for the
that is why
state.
some of them do not speak up because at the end of the day, their life might still be at risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm. So all these things are things they need to put in place and try to see how it would work reasonably well. It would definitely, if not be perfect, but it has to be, let's say, 80% okay to run a state, not just to make it seem like, okay, we are just doing uh, state policing for the sake of it. It has to be, the laws need to be specific, and we need to even the judiciary need to even come into play, because if the laws are okay in terms, because we have laws. The funny thing is that Nigeria have law. We have a lot of good laws, but working the judiciary are not even just making it seem easy, or this one will judge this one, and this one will judge this one. You take a case from Asaba down to Abuja, and Abuja judge will make this particular judgment, the High Court in Abuja. Then Asaba will make another judgment regarding the same case. There's no correlation. Everybody is just doing things in parallel line. So the law needs to be the law. We need to know what the laws are, and we need to, how to uh, make the law work for Nigerians. We the Nigerian citizens, we want our laws to work for us. So if the judges are not making it work, then we are going to be still running back to the same direction that we're coming
Well,
back
we'll
from.
get to there
So
though because someone actually make those points, but we'll get to there. We'll react to that as we continue. So let's listen to some other speakers.
It is trite that every solution creates its own set of new challenges. It's also known that every innovation would come up with its own disruption. And so the challenges or the concerns that people have may be justified. But I think that more than that is the fact that I don't see that it's a process that has been well thought through. Now, and the reason for that, there's a consensus that we need to devolve security responsibilities down to the smallest levels, and everybody agrees because, of course, policing is not what it should be. But then if we look at the challenges of policing, we must also look at the crimes that the police is supposed to handle. And so over the years, as we scream about the fact that the Nigerian police is not doing the work for which it's done, we must also interrogate the kind of crimes that we expect the Nigerian police to deal with. So over the years, what do we have in Nigeria now? We have terrorism, we have fundamentalism, we have banditry, we have illegal mining. And so, and a lot of the police has been depoliced. And so in a lot of places, we have a lot of police that have been killed alongside the military. And so people have not quite replaced them. A lot of the police stations have been burnt in the southeast where we come from. That place has been depoliced. They haven't been rebuilt. So I think that if we want to speak about state police, the first thing I would suggest is that we stand up the existing police structures. If we do not have a strong national police, then it is difficult for us to build on 36 police forces on a weak national police. Now, why do we the national police not working? And let me say that I agreement that we must devolve. So, because I see His Excellency smiling and disagreeing with me that I don't think we should devolve. No, I think we should devolve. But I think that the knee-jerk reaction to devolving must come with a process. And what is that process? I think that first and foremost, we should look at what is required. One of the greatest things that is required is the transition period. We must look at the timelines. We must say, okay, what are we trying to do? We're trying to build a state police that is going to deal with terrorism. And my question is, are we expecting the state police? Because when people say, just build the state police and all our security problems will go away, is it the magic bullet? And I keep asking that question and nobody seems to be telling me that. Second of all, we're looking at funding. Now, the national police has had a problem with funding. With the states, everybody's talking about the state gaps. I just read the other day that the
So let's take it one at a time so we do not forget, because she made a whole lot of points that I'd like us to talk about, right? One of it is the process and the details in which we talked about, first of all, that they've not shown real workings on how the thing is going to work and checkmating all those underground work that's supposed to have been done, that they are not showing it, the process, that they are not showing it, and also those things that made the national police not to work. How are you sure is that those same virus is not going to affect state police? So, what is your take on her opinion?
You know what? I'll just start with let not be like because an accountant. So I'll just budgeting is very important. Why I say budgeting? You know, these guys take for instance the federal police. They get to run their one way or the other. They have to be the one fueling their vehicles to make arrests, to do patrols and the rest of them. That is why most of them even get to take bribes and also stand at checkpoints and the rest of it. So first of all, they need to start with their budgeting. They need to know what they want, the framework of what they actually want. Combing, if it's about combing the bushes or as in, just they need to know what they actually want. That framework needs to be there. And I'm not saying that in whatever they are doing right now, they don't have the framework. You can if you go on the online now, you still will not see whatever framework that they
But for
put in
me though,
place.
I believe yeah, the lady asked a question that if state police is going to curb crime, I believe so, because at the moment now, somebody from the north that is in control of the national police will not be giving order to a police station, a police department in Imo State on how to go about at dealing with security. You understand? Just the way it will not go about telling Edo State how to deal with security. And every state will have their own policies on how to deal with policing. It doesn't have to be a uniform policy that will guide the whole 36 state. Every state should have its own policies. So, what do you think of that?
The funny thing is that there need to still be a synergy between the state police and the national police
No, they don't need to
because
be
if
any
it,
synergy. They don't need to be any synergy. Why they don't need to be any synergy is except they're investigating a crime together, right? Let's say a federal crime happened in a state. Let's say a federal crime was committed in a state. Yes, they can work together, share information and all that. But there has to be there's nothing like synergy. Okay, the synergy that might be there is okay. In every police department, there should be a federal agent that will be able to deal and investigate federal issues. That is where you have federal prosecutors. That is why you have federal police. That's why you have federal high court in every state. That time when they arrest somebody of a federal crime in Edo State, you don't need to carry that person to Abuja High Court. You can deal with it with the federal high court in Edo State. You should have federal prison and state prison in Edo State. Because if a person commits a crime, well, federal can choose to house anybody where they want to all over the country. That is a fact. That is true. But when it comes to state crimes like murder, thief, stealing, and some other kind of stuff, those are state crimes. That is why every state is supposed to have its own constitution. So when you go against the state constitution, the state prosecutor would be in charge. So what do you say?
why I said I'll just still go back to the synergy thing. I'll tell you, if take for instance the police take effect, for instance, this is about all this is about money, and you cannot say they will erect buildings almost immediately. That's why I say there should be synergy. So if a state police officer, for instance, in quotes now, arrests a suspect, where does he take him to? He should hand the suspect to the police, the normal federal police, at least for this time being. I'm just saying for the time being, pending when they get, because it's not the rocket science. It will not start almost immediately, like for them to have their structures and the rest of it almost immediately. They cannot be
So
charging
this
people
is
before.
yes they can. Yes they can. All they have to do is just convert all the existing police station to state policing and let the federal government restructure and refigure out what they are going to do, how they are going to create their are they going to create Nigeria Bureau Investigator? Are they going to create Nigeria Ministry of Investigation? Or are they going to turn DSS into federal police and then start to build federal prisons all over the country? But they can actually use the current apparatus like the commissioner of state how can just be as in decoupled from the center and just name him Edo State Commissioner or Edo State Police Department or Edo State, you know. And also that way every state will be able to bring its own policy and decide to say, okay, some might say, I want a police where you have two officers in a car that is computerized and goes everywhere. And you made mention about something about database. I think it is hard time the police starts to use computers instead of keeping all these their old file in those wardrobe drawer they keep them. They should start incorporating those data on the computer so that anywhere around the country, all you have to do is just put the person's name and date of birth. It will bring out their record. You understand? The person have been committed, have been convicted before or whatever.
Well, that's basically it. I think our major problem in Nigeria is database. Because if we have those database, we would easily, get our information straight up. And we've gone past the stage of, okay, we're not having direct information on a snap of our finger. Just enter the name, like you just mentioned, enter the person's date of birth, and you get the necessary information that you need to get. But like we said, till today we've still been trying to do census for the past how many years? God knows how long. Almost how many years now? If not almost 15 years. Census, they've allocated money for census till tomorrow. They still not done it, and that money is gone. They still need to allocate another one. God knows when that will be. But those informations are what we need to run the country and make it work. If we don't have those informations, everything that they are doing is going to be manual and manual till tomorrow. So those database is basically things that we need for the now. At least from there, it will tell you those that are employing. There are categories of employment. Those that are employing into your security apparatus, you need to know their characters and
Yeah, we'll
their
talk more on training. Let's not go into training yet. We'll come to training. So let me just ask you one question. No, no, let's bring the woman back. She has some points she was making that I still want us to.
and she made a lot of points. She made a lot of points.
Yeah, let's listen to her some more.
Northern governors had come together and have come up with a 1 billion naira monthly intervention with security, because we'll get the security you pay for. So how much money do the state have to build the kind of policing system that we require to deal with the security challenges that we have? Do we have a database? Now, I've read everywhere, and everybody's saying, oh, there's the urgency of now. We have to do it now. Everybody is in such a great big hurry. But you must train and retrain them. The Nigerian police school, the shortest training period is 6 months. And so we have to train and retrain. There has to be a method where we're training this police. There has to be a method where we're speaking about money, taxes, building. Everybody says, oh, as of today, the governors fund the police by 80%. And I'm saying, yes, they buy operational vehicles and they fuel them, but they don't buy the arms, the MRAPs, the guns. Again, one of the greatest problems before you go is proliferation of small arms and light weapons. As of today, the Nigerian police has lost 175,000 guns from their arms. Now we're going to build another police. Is anybody having any conversations with the committee on the proliferation, the Commission on the Proliferation of Small Arms and Light Weapons? Because we're going to have people, we're going to arm them down to the villages, and everybody is going to walk around with an AK-47. What are we going to do about those guns if there's no correct checks and balances? So my concerns will always be that we cannot talk about insecurity without talking about mopping up the guns. What is going to happen with all the other policing structures? For instance, in all this conversation, I've not heard anybody talk about the the other people, not the police.
Civil defense.
Civil defense. I've not heard anybody talk about civil defense. Civil defense is equipped, they're built to do certain things. Where are they in this conversation? What is the military intervention? Where are the jurisdictional stop gaps? I don't hear those conversations. All I hear is that people want state police, and it sounds like the panacea to all our problems. But I think that the little nitty-gritty issues must be dealt with, because we're dealing with something that has the potential, if not done properly, to create more problems. So,
and this is what you actually spoke about, the details, the nitty-gritty of the details. They are just rushing to do it so that it will be like we have done something. And also talking about weapons that were lost in Nigeria by police officers. Me and you know those weapons were sold to people to do all kind of things, because if you are not paying the police officers or equipping them financially well, they will look for other ways to make money. Because if at the end of the day you still create a state police that is underfunded, they would look for a way to make money, and that way they will undermine the citizens who are going to be the ones to pay dearly for such things. What's your take?
The thing is this, okay, take for instance, I want to make one example. Before now, the control in the police, uh, MPF, was very, very strong. I'll tell you for free. My dad once, for one reason or the other, he misplaced one bullet from his magazine, from his
Sorry, say that one
and
more time. I didn't
when
hear that. And you need to speak up a little bit.
my dad, actually, at some point while we were growing up, I remember he misplaced one bullet for some reason or another. Eventually, he won't find out the person that removed the bullet. When he went to return, because normally they exchange, if you are on morning duty, you take your AK, you go for your duty, you come back, you return it, and they count the bullets that you took out, and you return it, and the other person that is going for the night duty will take over from you like that. And that particular day, he came, one of his bullets was missing, and he did not shoot. Unknown to him, he entrusted his gun to one of his quote in quotes now friend. Do you know my dad spent almost 3 weeks in cell just to ascertain what happened to that particular bullet? But right now, I
But
don't
do
know
you
how
think
they are doing.
but do you think such things still exist?
And that's what I'm telling you. I don't know how they are doing it right now because people just get to just take guns and guns just go missing. It doesn't. It wasn't happening back then. It wasn't happening like that back then. So I'm surprised that okay, people get to just like the statistics she made was even surprising to me when I listened to her. The 120 something thousand guns missing in Nigeria police force is surprising, but nonetheless, it's happening. This is Nigeria now, and we have to just stick to the state of the union. Let me just put it like that, because the union now, everybody wants to go the other way. Everybody wants to go the other way. So everything she has stated is just basically fact. Everything needs to just be. They need to sit back. This is not time to rush into anything state police. To me, it's not the time. They need to be holistic about it, make people, reasonable people, get into the conversation and try to provide solutions to every other things that they probably will not see. But them rushing into making it an act or a law, then we are going to be dilly-dallying, and at the end of the day, this set of governors will still go and another come, the same routine. And the problem with Nigeria is continuity is a problem. Like you mentioned, every state ought to have different kind of okay, maybe based on their peculiar situation, and they want to just say, okay, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we're going to do it. But you will be surprised. Continuation is our key problem. Another governor will come now and want to change whatever the other governor or the strategy the other governor kept in place. He wants to make his own. He wants to make his own name. At the end of the day, you now start doing something different. That's why I say it should be a national holistic thing
No, it
for
cannot.
every
It cannot
state.
be a nationalistic thing. Every state would have to be independent with its own policies, its own police structure. It cannot be the same. Edo State police structure
I'm
cannot be the same as Imo State, or Anambra State cannot be the same as Abia State.
don't Chidi, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it should. I'm saying there should be a laid down structure because that why I said people will come and want to say, okay, oh, I don't like the way that one take do am. Okay, take for instance now Edo State. What's it called? Obaseki just left. Most of the things he did, this man has changed it. That's why I said there's no continuity.
No, we're
Okwewo,
talking
the
about
current governor,
policing
has
now.
changed.
We're talking about policing.
And
Um,
I'm telling you, they tend to want to impose their own ideas on everything they want to do.
Definitely, every
So all those
governor
things,
that comes in will definitely wants to shape its policy and the governor in its own image to create its own. But I understand what you mean by continuation. Like for example, if there is a construction of road that was paid by the first government or the first governor, let's say the first government, and that government goes out and
yeah,
another one comes in, you are expected to complete that contract, even though it wasn't you who started it. So that is continuation. But whereby you have a police station whereby let's say you have a police department, a state police department, where you don't like some policies that you think is not helping secure the citizens, you can change some things as a governor. So that's why. So let's listen to this former chief of staff, Dr. Abu General Irabo.
Thank you for that intervention. But before I address your question, let me try to bring greater clarity to what I consider to be a misconception regarding the state police. Sometimes we fail to realize that currently we have police stations across the country, down to the local government and even to village levels. That is what we have currently. So when people say that policing need to get to the grassroots, and so state police will help to address that, I think they miss the point.
Well, I disagree with him here totally. He's totally wrong here, right? One, why I feel he's wrong is we're not practicing community policing right now, because even if you bring, let's say, okay, we have police station in Oredo local government, and you bring a police officer from Kangari or Kangudi in North to come and head a police station in Oredo, that's not community policing. You understand what I mean? That's not community policing at all.
Yeah.
When we say community policing, is the local government chairman being responsible for hiring and firing of police officer in his local government, that their jurisdiction, let's say for example they are chasing, they are doing a car chase, and the person leave Oredo local government and enter another local government in that same Edo state. The Oredo police does not have the right to cross that jurisdiction. Instead, they will radio the other jurisdiction to take over the chase. You understand where I'm coming from? So at the end of the day, when that person is caught, it will now involve the state police, because now he has gone through different local government. You understand? So instead of having separate investigation, you just have the state police come in and do the one investigation. Just the same thing as state. If a crime goes beyond the border of Edo State, let's say it goes from Edo State to Port Harcourt and everything,
Delta.
then Delta, right? Then the federal police comes in. It becomes a federal crime because now it is interstate. But if it is a crime that was just in Edo State, the state police can deal with it. Like in Texas, we have state police, we have uh, city police, which is the one
County.
that is the major police officers. City police, you only see
The
state
county.
police, yeah, county police, correct. You only see state police when, let's say, they want to transfer criminal from here to another state. That's when the state patrol, they call them state troopers. That's when the state trooper comes in, right? Or state sheriffs. We have school policing too, where if a crime happens in campus, you don't need to call police from the county. The police that you call is the one that's inside the school. Then in every high school, every primary school, every school, they have a resource officer, one police officer that sits in the vehicle and watch. So that way, this is real community policing to the grassroots. That's what grassroots policing is. And when he says community policing will not solve the issue of crime, I totally disagree with him. What do you think? What's your take?
Well, basically, I think, you know, like you mentioned, bringing in people from different states into another state to maybe in name of policing, uh, it will not all go well in terms of, say, them understanding the terrain, because you need to understand the terrain for you to even that catches you just mentioned now. For you need to even understand the terrain before you even do a catches. And the other thing is, equipment is an issue for us. You just mentioned radio. We hardly radio in Nigeria here, hardly, because the equipment is not readily available. The other thing is, for them to even embark in a car chase, there's no PMS inside the vehicle for them to make a car chase. So that is even mostly out of it. If the person is fast enough, it goes. That is it. And if you cannot radio, you cannot chase. What then happens? You let the crime go. So most of those things are just things that we need to still put into cognizance. Then, like you rightly mentioned, those vehicles being readily available at the maybe probably the schools, the local government, or the streets or the road, for instance, in terms of maybe there's a crime and you are radioed and you have to. Do we have them? We don't have them, and we don't have budgets for them. Believe you me. Have you seen them pushing their vehicles when it goes bad? There's no logistics. No logistics. Go and check Nigerian police budgets. There's no logistics for them to even work. So you see they get to even sew their own uniforms by themselves. So all these things are things that we need to just make. Probably that's why I mentioned earlier that we need to have budgeting, because if they still need to, if state police still need to be the ones to sew their uniform, then we are still going to start the same round of national police issues. So all these things, they need to just sit down and work on it. So everything we are saying now is basically, or what they are saying, yeah, they are all making points, whether we like it or not. But I believe this is not the right time for state policing. They need to sit down and do the general holistic plan for it. They need to know what they want and what they ought to do. If not, some states will, states that cannot pay teacher salary, you now want to employ people for policing. What then happens? So all these things need to be put into for them to know what they actually and what they really want, not just imposing state policing on every state, in quotes now, and just make the law for them to just go and do state police. That is where the abuse will come in. So all these things we are talking about, they need to sit down well, even in the national their next meeting. They need to discuss it in their next meeting and know what they want. Because if I cannot pay salary of teachers, then how do I pay for state
Well,
police?
like I said, they have the money. It just depend on what their priority is. You understand? It just depends on what their priority is. The money
Yeah,
is there,
and the
and the
priority,
funding is
their
there. They
priority,
can, yeah, it just depends what if they really want to protect the citizens. The money is not the issue, in my opinion. To be honest with you.
and their priority ought to be protection of life and properties of the
Well, let's
citizenry.
proceed though. Let's proceed.
State is all about command and control. Which level of control, which level of command do you have? Such that responses are quicker, interventions to issues of law enforcement will be greater, will be improved. So this is where state police comes in. So let us get it right that state police is not about whether there will be those that will be recruited from the community, because currently we do have, there is no local government where you don't have representation in the federal police. Ditto for the armed forces. But then we are looking at a structure that where the command and control will be so devolved such that there will be quicker responses to issues. I just thought it's essential for us to have that common understanding. Now, I do not think that there will be duplication of responsibilities. Why? Because the more, in my view, the merrier. But then that is with a caveat. And what is that caveat? Currently, why we believe that the federal policing system is not serving the purpose is because we have not actually taken time to interrogate why they are not effective. And our failure in that regard, and which I believe that we should do, we should take time now that we're discussing state police, to be able to interrogate it such that When state police comes into existence, and I believe it's already come into existence, I believe that the state houses of assembly will give concurrence to what the National Assembly has done. But then when they fully come on stream, the disease that has infected the federal police, we must do well to address the root causes of that disease so that it will not affect the state police. And what do I mean? It is necessary for us to look at how the federal police currently is structured, the logistics, the equipment, the training, among several other indicators.
So let's talk about training. This man is talking too much. I don't even understand what point he's trying to make. What do you take on what he's saying? What's your take?
Okay, like take for instance the caveat that I mentioned. You just basically I talked about it earlier. What's it called? We need to, in anything that we're going to be doing now in terms of state policing, we need to know what the issues really will be or are in the federal policing so that we can, try to make corrections before we start the state policing. Like he was talking about training. The other lady mentioned them going for just 6 months training, and basically that is it. They go for 6 months training, and there's no training and retraining. I believe you me, there's no training and retraining, and whether you like it or not, in a policing job, I think you should train, retrain, to know even
consistently. There should be consistent training.
even the
It does not have to be as vigorous as the first time, but there should be consistent training.
even psychological aspect of things need to be looked into. So you don't just throw people into the street and you don't know what their state of mind is. And at the end of the day, they make issues for you as the controller or the mayor or the county chief in the county. So all these things need to be looked into in totality, at least to make it, they should be serving us, basically. So all these things, you need to look at a lot of things holistically, independently. If it's term of logistics, training, and the rest of it, you need to look at it well before making all these laws. That's why I'm a little bit backward regarding the state police for the now. Not that it's not important, but for the now, they need to look into a lot of things before they just throw this law, because they are fond of throwing laws at us. At the end of the day, it backfires and everybody just starts, saying so many things. So they need to look into a lot of things before they make this law or they pass it into law, as it were. So that's basically it.
All right, let's listen to my guy. My guy, the
inherent contradiction if you look at the provisions of the Constitution. The state governor is the chief security officer. What is the tool of enforcing security? If a state has to have responsibility for primary health care, can it do so without the Ministry of Health? So I cannot be a state security officer. I have no control. I can't give orders to the police. I can't discipline my instrument of control. I cannot promote. I cannot recruit. So it's like calling me a husband, but I have no wife. So I think that over the ages, people have realized that the system as it is isn't working. And I can tell you, because one of the issues raised by those who have spoken include the fact that they think, will the state be able to fund the police? Nobody will be able to fund anything you do not believe in. Where we put money is a reflection of our values and of.
So what do you think? What do you say about that? He just said it now, right? The funding won't be a problem. It just depends on do they have the will to fund it? Do they really want to secure the people? You understand? You fund what you like, you fund what you're interested in. You understand what I mean? So what's your take on that aspect?
Well, basically, you mentioned it earlier that it's basically what you have in mind or what you value that you fund. But I still want to think there needs to be a check and balance. That is where these three arms come in. If the governor is unwilling, in quote unquote, I want to say unwilling as it were, what is the state legislature doing? They ought to check the governor's decisions and his actions in terms of security and the rest of it. If he's not capable, what do? They ought to impeach him. So this is where all these things, the checks and balances, has to come in, and the judiciary also. So if the governor is not willing to secure the people, for instance, which ought to be his primary responsibility, I think it is in place for the legislatures, for instance, to move a motion to impeach him. And after that, the judiciary do their own part. So all these things, I don't want to believe if you don't have them, okay, you don't, that's not your primary, okay, you don't want to do it. It ought to be your primary responsibility to secure your citizens in your states, in quotes now. Then if you are not doing it, it is the responsibility of the judiciary to mandate you as the governor to do it. So all these things has to be in pari passu. The three arms of government. That is why we have the three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So if the governor is refusing to protect the citizens, and the legislature see that this guy is not doing it, in quote now, they have the power to say, okay, oh,
But
you
legislators
have
cannot just wake up one day and say, the governor, we see you're not doing your job, so we want to impose. Someone has to bring a
somebody
case, right?
somebody has to bring a case. That's what I'm saying. If, for instance, now, like you mentioned already, for instance, they keep kidnapping, they keep killing, and there's nothing being done by the executive which responsibility is to protect the people. The legislation representing Oredo can bring it to the fore, to the legislative arm, and say the governor has not been able to protect the life of my people that elected me into this. And most definitely they are saying it. Everybody are saying it. They can, if once he brings it up, they can deliberate on it, and maybe by the time they issue him a query, because they have the right to issue him that query, if he does not sit up, eventually they can start an impeachment proceeding on him. But being that they are, most of them are sycophants, the governors are the ones that put them there, so they will not want to act in that direction. So all these things boil down to our system not working and political sycophancy, godfatherism, and the rest of it. So those are our basic our problems in Nigeria as it stands now. So if we say they are going to impeach, probably it will not happen. But nonetheless, like Adams actually mentioned, Governor Adams Oshomole, former, the responsibility of the state governor is, or the presidency or the executive, first, protection of lives and properties. That is basically the first responsibility of any government before any other thing. So we need to just get it right. I don't know how else I can say it, but we need to get it right. And if we don't sit down and do a think tank, then we're not going to go out of these issues that we're going through. Let him finish.
And the responsibility of a state, of a subnational government, just like a national government, is to lay out its priorities and allocate resources in a manner that reflect those priorities. I can tell you as a governor, a former governor, and current governor may dispute it if they so wish. But in truth, the amount of money I had to spend to procure vehicles communication gadgets as governor of Edo State was much more than the federal government vehicles that we had in Edo State. Unfortunately, my responsibility ends at procuring these vehicles. When they are misused, they are mismanaged, and I even suspect that they are stolen by those who are supposed to maintain them. I do not have the legal enablement to go beyond asking questions to enforcing discipline. And people talk about possible abuse. My response is, even today, our Nigerians, including the media, not amplifying some cases of abuse of federal police, either by federal authorities or even by state authorities, misusing the police.
So, what's your take on what he just said? When people talk about abuse, we are getting towards the abuse part and the kind of laws and procedures that can be policies that can be put in place to prevent abuse. But he just made a point now that even the one you have now, the federal one you have now, is being abused by the state governors, officials, private VIPs, federal officials. So, what do you say about that?
It's self-explanatory, anyways. The system is the control, and the VIPs. Even he that is talking, he will not say he has not used police to abuse anything. But I just want
Yeah,
to excuse him.
that's true.
I want to excuse him on that aspect of things. But the thing is, if you don't have now, okay, the good part of it is that social media is now making everything on the glare. People now record, and they bring certain things that are happening that we have not been seeing before now to the glare of the whole nation and the system as it were. And disciplinary actions are being taken now by, I think, the current IG. This is working very hard on that particular aspect of, once there's a video in circulation, he gets to summon, and they act on it. So that is one of the things that is being done. But the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, training and retraining, mental state of things, because then their welfare is also very important. Because if the welfare is not there, they will definitely want to try to get bribed or want to impose certain things or on citizens that ought not be. So welfare, if the welfare is okay, I believe some of these things will die down or will go down. And we need to still reduce the number of police that we are sent to VIPs, allocate to VIPs. One particular individual will be having 10 police officers
No
guiding, and
VIP, even some government officials should have, and it shouldn't be police, it should be DSS or SSS that should be roaming around with politicians. And no police officer should be attached to any VIP. If they want security, they should have private securities that they can hire to offer them private security. But let's say they have like a show, an event. Yes, the state police can actually go there, secure the parameters, make sure the citizens are safe and all, but they are not there to protect or safeguard the celebrity or the high personality. So they should remove police from VIP. Instead, police, if they continue to practice this policing with VIP, it will make no sense. That's the point. Let's continue now.
To them. I think the point is, you can't have a subnational government charged, among other things, with the responsibility of contributing to the maintenance of law and order and protecting life and property, and deny any of the levels of government the means with which to do so, and yet to hold them responsible. Every day in the Senate, we receive reports, and even some of our senators are harassed by their constituents Why are we exposed to these avoidable crimes? I can also tell you for a fact, as governor of Edo State, we have cases in which the commissioner of police identify and arrest some criminals. And then there is a call from Abuja that those criminals be released. And to my pain and helplessness, they are released.
That is a common phenomenon of Nigerian police where VIPs or people in high places can just call and give instruction, uh, pay better money, and the police officers will do their bidding, right? That is very common in Nigeria. If such attitude goes on in state policing, it's as better as just leaving what we have, what Nigerians have at the moment. You understand? Those are structural things that needs to be changed. Those are such things that Arabo and the other lady spoke about the demons that have bewitched this current policing being transferred to state policing. And also the another good part of it is that when you have state police, nobody can just come from Abuja and say release that person. What's your take?
You know what? I want to even bring one particular thing to your knowledge. I don't know if you heard about it when it happened. Buhari, sorry to say, the daughter, she was using a particular thing at some point, and eventually she stopped using that sim. It takes, like Nigeria, for instance, it takes some time once you are not using a particular sim, probably for like maybe 6 months, they disconnect you and recycle the sim. That's they sell the sim to somebody else. So it so happened that okay, the sim she was using, she stopped using it, and eventually MTN recycled that sim, and somebody in Asaba bought the sim. And for some reason, somebody called that particular sim, somebody that knew her or knows her, called that particular sim and it rang. So the man that bought the sim picked the call. I was like, sorry, it's not the person that used to use the SIM that is using it now is another person. All of a sudden, do you know this lady or this girl called DSS, and DSS went to Asaba to pick the man up for a SIM he bought legitimately from MTN. They picked him to Abuja that is using the late Buhari's daughter's SIM card that was sold to him by MTN.
And it's actually the number though. It's not really the same scene. It was the number that was transferred to
The
the guy.
number, it's the number that is the issue. I'm just trying to say
I
that's
understand.
how they have abused the system. Calls can just come from anybody, and they just pick up anybody just like that from. So they have abused the system to the extent that it's basically 3% of the country's citizens that are controlling 93%. I mean 97% of the citizens. They can just make any call and they pick you up. You can. So many people have gone down for what they know nothing about. Okay, this particular scenario that I just painted, are they not supposed to contact MTN that why did you what okay, why can't NCC, for instance, control the sale of SIM? Why recycle if you can create another one?
No, even in
But
America, yeah, even in America, yeah, too. If you've not used the number for a while, yeah, they give it to someone else. They transfer your number to a new, like after 3 months, they transfer your number or so it's everywhere. It's just regular normal practice. But for the fact that because the number was used by the daughter of a former president or a sitting president does not give the DSS right to go and arrest someone. You see, that is the stupidity of policing we talk about in Nigeria. The policing in Nigeria is used to harass citizens, not to protect life and properties. It's used to harass citizens because it makes no sense to go and arrest somebody for no reason without doing your investigation first, knowing if truly that person stole the number. She that is she that went to report could have done a simple research and realized that if you change your number, after a while, that number will be assigned to someone else. So if they carry this attitude into state policing, it will just be another punishment on the citizens. Like I said, the Nigeria police structure is meant to punish citizens and harass citizens, not to protect. So if they're going to do this, they should do it in a way that it does protect and serve. Let's continue.
I had a case in which I accused the police authorities where my personal assistant was assassinated. The report by DSS points to one thing. The report by the Nigerian Police Headquarters suggests otherwise. Completely incoherent. And I'm helpless. I can see the officers involved in the crime, but I can do little or nothing about it. So my argument is, those who talk about whether this will be properly done, it will be properly done. That is why we are in a democracy. If you elect a governor and he mistake the state police as his personal police and misuse them, please next time vote them out. And the media will have a duty to amplify all of those elements in the system who are misusing. There is no human being who doesn't have the capacity either to use his office efficiently and responsibly or to misuse his powers irresponsibly. Those two things are present. Now, what determines who we elect and who we keep in office will have to be how he uses all the facilities under his control, whether resources entrusted to you, the instrument of governance, etc., etc. And let me share this with you. And this was for me something extremely painful I will never forget in a hurry. There was an incident of fire incidents in Edo. And as the governor of Edo State, I am responsible to ensure that lives and properties are safe. And I wanted the commissioner of police to give me information as to whether or not this particular incident was caused by natural electrical problems or it was a case of arson. And to my shock, the CP said he can't come to see me in the office. I should send my ADC at midnight with a marked vehicle. The name of this commissioner is one Mr. Balogun, around 2013. And I said, is there anybody who is doubting the fact that I'm the governor of Edo State, that you can't see me? So when people even talk of abuse, they proceed to suggest as though currently there are no abuses. There are. There are. Let me conclude by saying this. You cannot, unless you amend the Constitution to remove the word, governors are the chief security officers of their state. Just to comply with that segment of the Constitution, the governor needs the instrument to perform as a truly chief security officer. And lastly, is it the fact of being at the national level that informs your character, or is it the nature of your person? Because the question of misuse of power is not limited to any particular arm of government. So I think that at this point, we have to look at the debate over the years, because I also asked, I heard you saying, why now? Why not now? Why not now? Because even when I was governor, before I became governor, this issue has been in discussion. And I watch from Arise every day. You join the rest of the people lamenting what has become of our country. You catalog all the failings of security.
All right. What's your take? He's talking too much. What's your take?
Well, basically, he has mentioned the necessity of the state policing, and I still would say it's not the right time for it. They need to have a public hearing. They need to bring the people into the picture so that they can, draft out a lot of things that the people are the ones going through it. They are not going through it. That's the funny thing. They are not going through what we are going through. They only get to hear from their PAs or their SSAs. But the people are the ones going through it. So they need to do a public hearing where people will bring out what the issues really are in terms of policing in the country. And from there, they can draft out the right set of laws or get the right set of document that will, make this policing, the state policing, very, very holistic and comprehensive, irrespective of the state. So them rushing into it, because I'll say they are rushing into it for the now, is going to yield nothing. We might eventually come back and they start doing amendments again on the law they have created. So they need to get the public involved. They need to have public hearings, probably in all states, and from there they can draft out what the law ought to encompass before they pass it. So them rushing into it, to me, is not going to yield any positive result. That's just my take.
Thank you. I want to play a video, right, of what a
Yeah.
state police vehicle could look like. Hold on, let me see if I have the right video before I play it.
All right.
Okay. I know this. I know this one is. I know it is expensive though, but the US. I mean, I know it's expensive, but Nigeria has the money to do it. I want to show you inside what consists of a US patrol vehicle. I want you to see for yourself what Nigeria can aspire to have. You know.
Walking up here, you guys used to do white. Are you switching over to this kind of silverish color?
This will be the first car of a transition into all silver cars.
Yeah, yeah.
So first of all, if you have like a local government kind of policing, right, you can call it Uredo Police Department, OPD. You understand? So Uredo, if you have Delta State Police, or let's say you have Ogwashuku, you say Ogwashuku Police Department, OPD, depending on what it starts with. Or you can just say OGPD to put the Ogwashuku in to differentiate it from that of a Edo State. These are creativity. People need to be creative in how they run politics and how they intend to bring all these things to Nigerians. Nigerians deserve things like this. So let's proceed. Sorry for
Well, I would just want to ask
It's
you one question.
yeah,
Is this a common vehicle being used in America by the normal
correct.
citizens? By
Well,
normal citizens.
citizens do drive vehicles like this too, yes. But
That's
this
where
is it.
why I asked the question is you will hear Oshomole mention something. He bought vehicles and gadgets while he was the governor back then, and some of them were stolen. How were they stolen? Definitely in buying vehicles for the police officers, he will, they will inscribe police, whatever, whatever. And some top ranking officers will take those vehicles, they will spray them, and you'll never see those vehicles again. That was what he was trying to tell you or tell us while he was still the governor. And he wasn't able to, all he could do was just ask questions, but he could not act, being that the authorities to act on it was not with him, was in Abuja. So all these
Uh,
things, like this vehicle, for instance, you buy them and give to these police officers, believe you me, a lot of them will go missing. They will
no,
spray
that's
them.
where oversight. So we'll talk about it. That's where oversight comes in. That's where there should be procedures. And after you finish, let's say you have two people occupying this vehicle and you're running a 8 hour shift. After your 8 hour shift, you go back to the police station and you park your vehicle, you check in your keys, and you go home. You grab your personal vehicle, or if you don't have personal vehicle, you call for transport and you go home. You can't take police officers' car to your house. Some of them over here in America do take it to their houses though, but you will know which officer is taking it to their house and when they retire, they will return it and all those things, So they have to be oversight, But let's just watch and see what I would like a Nigerian police vehicle to look like.
Beautiful. I like the blue on the silver, everything like that. Gorgeous car.
Sharp, yep.
So, all right. So on the inside of this thing, let our audience know, what do you have? This is your workspace, right?
Correct.
So you spend a lot of time in here.
12 hours at a time.
What do you got in there?
So going left to right, we kind of just have a spotlight. It's kind of self-explanatory. There's a couple features that Ford has in these cars that are pretty.
See, this that light it showed you, right, is, let's say, is to just see if they on that light on you, it's so bright, or let's say they are driving in a dark place. Let's say they are driving in a dark place, so they want to see what's happening. They can just on that light and shine it anywhere. You see, it rotates 180 degrees.
Useful to us. One of the features being that we can actually keep the car running, but take the key out, which is just a safety precaution. If somebody were to gain access to our car, they wouldn't be able to drive away with it.
Okay.
Also, it has perimeter alert, which almost sets a radius behind the car. If somebody were to approach my vehicle when I'm in park with the perimeter alert on, it would actually beep, roll my windows up, and alert me to where they are in relation to my vehicle on a little display.
Okay. Is that unique for the 2020 model, or is that something that you kind of have to special order?
So this is the 2021, but the 2020 was the first model I saw it on that we got in our new cars. But it's definitely a nice feature just for safety when we're typing.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about some of the incidents that happen, especially in New York, where they kind of got ambushed, that's definitely a helpful thing to keep you guys protected.
Absolutely. When we're working on our reports and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Okay, what else you got?
So we have the computer here, which is really where we run, 70% of our things through. Anything non-emergency, we can type right into the computer. Instead of tying up the radio waves, we have several different police departments that are all on the same radio channel as us. So we can do things through the computer, not tie up that radio time.
Okay.
In case anyone else were to get in some sort of emergency.
Okay. So do you get 911 dispatches through that too?
We do.
Okay.
So we can self-attach. There's an officer on a phone assignment here. So if I were to see that come through, I can dispatch it to myself. I can jump on that and I can take that, and go and handle that incident and clear it right from here and not even really have to do much communication or tie up much radio time at all.
Wow, that's awesome.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name.
So far, so what do you think before this commercial goes through? What do you think?
Well, basically, you see the features. It's for the advanced country, and I think we are not there yet.
Feel sitting in there? Do you feel squished?
I would tell
I feel all right. It's comfortable. I mean, there's an armrest here, so you can kind of spread out, and it's not too bad. You do have to get out and stretch your legs from time to time. For sure.
And I hear that Ford specifically built these seats so they don't have those big bolsters on the side, designed for your duty belts.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I can't really even tell. I mean, I have my belt set up in a way to fit properly, but it's not uncomfortable at all.
Okay. What do you got down the center console? Got a couple of different radios.
Yeah, so here, this operates pretty much everything, what I would say, on the external of the vehicle. It would be my emergency lights, sirens. We also have alley lights and takedown lights, which would be on the light bar on the top here. There's an LED light that would illuminate in the area in front of us and to the sides of us.
Okay.
Also, we have what's called the Opticom, which syncs with traffic lights, enables us to take control of the traffic light. With or without our emergency lights on if we ever need to do so for whatever reason.
Right. Now, in Exton here, you have some very specific highways. You have Route 100, Route 30, which can get real congested at times.
Sure.
So having an Opticom is very important.
Oh, absolutely.
It helps with that. We did a podcast a while ago about Opticom. So if you guys haven't seen that or listened to that, check out the...
Yeah, the radio that we have access to, like I said, the Central Dispatch of Chester County, the Central Group, which is several other police departments on this channel. We also have, a variety of side channels that we can operate more directly with just West Whiteland officers or even other police departments directly.
Okay. And that's an 800 megahertz radio.
Correct.
Now, can you contact EMS through that, or how do you guys get dispatched?
We can. So we would go through the county radio, police dispatch, requesting EMS, and then they would go through, to contact EMS and send them.
Okay, so it's a private secure channel.
Correct.
Okay, and then what's below that? I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, so this is a VSpec. It's a speed timing device. Basically what it does is it calculates distance and time and gives you the speed that a vehicle was traveling. You can use it to actively pace a vehicle as I'm following them, or I can measure out 2 points and measure the time that a vehicle takes to go between those 2 points and calculate.
So no more radar detectors or anything like that?
Correct. Yeah, we don't have that.
Wow. So, wow. So all those laser detectors that you used to have back in the early 80s are useless.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what do you got up above your head? I see a camera and.
So this will be the display for the camera, which is mounted right here for the dash cam. So it's through WatchGuard is our system that we use, which is actually synced with our body cameras here. So every morning I go and put this into a dock here.
Okay.
Syncs this up completely. So if my body camera is active, the dash cam gets activated. If the dash cam gets activated, the body camera gets activated. So it's all synced up, and then when that goes into our system, they're actually all linked together. We can actually do a side-by-side view of the car camera playing at the same time as the body camera.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's take a look at the rest of the vehicle here. Before we do, you guys like this video? Do us a favor, hit that subscribe, hit that notification.
We end up with.
And what happened to the seat? I open a door, I expect a seat and seat belt and everything else. This is all changed.
Right. Yeah, well, it's a lot easier to clean.
Okay.
It's a lot of situations that we get into. There's dirt tracked in. I mean, not even necessarily just from prisoners. We end up with dogs and all sorts of things in the back seat, and tracks all sorts of dirt in. But this is significantly easier to clean, and it's more durable. It doesn't get all torn up.
Okay, and it keeps you secure from whoever's back here, right?
Yeah,
so if they are getting violent with you, we have a lot of psychiatric patients. Not just bad guys, but people that we're trying to protect.
Exactly.
This will protect you from getting hurt also.
Sure.
So, and the bars and the windows are kind of for the same purpose.
Correct.
The one thing I noticed real quick when we open the door, the seatbelt seems to be backwards.
Right.
Why is that?
So it's a safety thing. If an officer had to reach across, it opens an officer up to a prisoner who may be violent, or like you said, a psychiatric patient who may be violent or acting out to injure us in some sort of way. So what this enables us to do is just to seatbelt somebody in without having to even reach across them.
Okay.
Secure them that way.
Yeah, that's very forward thinking. It's one of the things that as a normal civilian wouldn't even think about. Like, I just put someone in the back seat and tell them to put their seatbelt on or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But no, you're going to actually make sure that they're buckled in, make sure that they're safe.
Yes, sir.
So very cool. So, all right, what do you got back here?
So we have all sorts of stuff in the trunk here. We have a basic shield, which we could use in certain situations if we have to search a home or whatever, where there's a risk of, or at least a consideration of a risk of somebody, being inside that may want to hurt us. We have, some gloves. These are stop sticks. So we were in a situation, where another police department was, in a pursuit or something like that. We could deploy them onto the ground. They would, essentially spike the vehicle. And they're actually designed in a way to slowly release air from tires so that it doesn't cause.
So they don't all of a sudden, lose control of the vehicle and crash. You're trying to get them to slow down.
Correct.
You're like, we're going to flatten your tires, but you're going to slow and stop eventually.
Exactly.
You have an AED. Are you guys also first responders?
We are, yeah. We use those, quite a bit. A lot of times, just by the nature of it, we get there before the EMS, and a lot of times we are the ones to initially put the pads on. So we do use ours. I'm not going to say often, but
we appreciate you having it. I know, where I work from and work around. A lot of the police officers, like you said, arrive there probably about 2 or 3 minutes before we do.
Correct. It sounds about right.
One of the reasons is you guys get dispatched before us for our own safety. I'm in EMS, so having you guys go out there first. That 2 minutes that you're there before us makes a big difference. So I thank you for putting the AEDs on board. It looks like you have a kind of a mini tactical vest.
Correct.
Is that, I assume, for active shooter? Because you already have a...
Primarily for active shooter, and, any kind of situation where there's, a chance that could happen, we would utilize those.
Okay. And what's the big, long blue coat hanger?
So that's actually part of, I'll show you the other pieces here. So for, certain emergencies, if somebody locks a child in a car or whatnot, we're allowed to utilize these two tools here to separate the door.
Please pardon me. That's what you get when you watch from YouTube.
And then that's just to help us.
Okay, so a wedge and a bladder to kind of pry the door open, and you get that's much better than breaking the windows.
Sure.
All too often we check out all their YouTube videos and you see these cops just pounding with their nightstick trying on the window to open
absolutely.
it. And you just got the kits ready to go. That's pretty cool. So as we continue to make our way around the vehicle, I noticed on the tail that this is a hybrid vehicle. How do you like that? It's both electric and gas, and it's all-wheel drive?
Correct, yeah.
So how does that handle for you?
I have no complaints.
So what do you have to say about these? Don't you think it would be proper to start to envision Nigeria police that way, instead of having a van where you have like 8 or 10 of them jumping out like they are criminals, shooting in the air? There should be a little bit of decorum, a little bit of professionalism, clean cut and all. What's your take on that? I know we are not there yet, but don't you think it's something to aspire to?
That is where okay, take for instance, that's sporadic gunshots to the air, or maybe, jumping out like criminals themselves from their e-locks and their whatever, their trucks. It's about training and retraining, JD. It's about training and retraining, because if the orientation they have now is what you bring into the state police aspect of things again, then it's going to be brutal. I'll just use that word, brutal. Because if you're not training them and retraining them for them to know the orientation and everything, then you're going to, because they will be the one to, the funny thing is that these guys are going to be the ones, that the federal police are going to be the ones to be training the state police, whether you like it or not. They are not going to be bringing professionals from anywhere. So they will capitalize on the federal police that is, as it were now, to train these current ones that they want to start employing. At the end of the day, what are you going to impact on them? You impact the same thing you have in you on them. And at the end of the day, it now becomes the same thing, the same routine. So if they are not being trained and retrained, their level of thinking probably will not change. And at the end of the day, will still pass down the same knowledge that they have for that 6 months that they were trained for, to down to this particular one that they are going to be employing now. At the end of the day, you have the same routine going on within them. So all these things about basically training and retraining. Then this gadgets and this vehicle that you saw, okay, you will see what's it called? There's a dash cam inside that vehicle that can record everything that is happening on a live feed. So you can easily, or probably it might not even be on a live feed, but it's being recorded. So when you are dropping the vehicle, like you said, maybe keying your vehicle, they can read your dash cam to know if there's an issue. They can easily just, okay, read your dash cam and they will get the information that they ought to have. But yeah, we don't have all those gadgets within us, and they can just do and undo. Some of them,
Because
even the
another
idea.
reason why I think police should incorporate technology and computer in their car like that is, let's say, for example, someone has a warrant. The moment you run their ID, that's what you talked about also with database too. These are the things, these are the nitty gritty things that they should be debating on, but they are not debating on these issues.
That's why I say it's not time. That's why I said it's not time yet. They need to sit, get the holistic information from every direction, not just them sitting down inside that a green chamber and the red chamber, and just craft out one law and send it to the president. He puts his signature on it, it becomes law, and we're supposed to just swallow it and continue living our lives. And it's almost because we Nigerians, we get to adapt to certain things a lot easy. We just adjust once a law is passed. We just we go with it anyhow. Life goes on. Name be our name. So all those things are things we need to sometimes speak up on. Like, okay, like this arise interview for this lady and gentleman, it opens the eyes of a lot of Nigerians to a lot of things. The set of people they brought to the panel, they made a lot of sense, and thank God, most people would have learned from it. And I hope they themselves, the legislators, including Senator Adams Oshomole, they should seek the holistic aspect of things. Talk with the citizenry. Bring in civilians, bring in normal citizens. Let them, give you information what it is in the streets, because who are the one facing the problems. He personally, as it were, he will not say he will come to, except during election, they will not come to the street and start doing all those 2020 waka waka. until don't reach election time. That time you see them they chop corn for split. See them they buy.
Well, before we proceed to listen to more of the conversation and the debate, right, I want you to watch on what an ideal police uniform is supposed to look like, how they are supposed to dress. Instead of carrying all those long guns, they can actually have it in their trunk and use it when needed. But I need you to watch this. So you see, she has a stun gun, like what's it called, uh, taser. So in case it's not
Yeah,
something that requires shooting, she can use taser to subdue uh, a criminal or something. So that is an ideal look of what I would hope a Nigerian police. It doesn't necessarily have to look exactly like that of America, right? But the idea of you
yeah,
having them with those long guns makes them feel like they are in a battlefield with the citizens. But if they have like a regular Glock or a regular pistol with taser, cuffs, dress appropriately, not that one where they wear jean and slippers with a red thing on their head and they wear bulletproof that says police and they call themselves SARS. Those are not ideal. Now let me even go search for some kind of um Nigeria police outfit, you know. But what do you have to say before I proceed?
well, basically that had to be the ideal way of dressing for a police officer. You know, you have everything readily available on you. You know, carrying AK-47 should be a secondary thing because it's not everywhere you go that you want to shoot, right? So if it warrants, like you mentioned, the taser, if you need to use a taser to subdue a criminal or a suspect, you can easily just use a taser to do that rather than carrying the AK because at every point you get to have this what's it called, accidental discharge. And at the end of the day, you kill somebody that you could easily have just tased and subdue him or her. At the end of the day, you kill and it becomes an issue for you yourself, or at the end of the day, you get to cover it. So, like that video you rightly pictured, uh, is an ideal way for a police officer to dress.
It commands more respect and it shows a real police officer. Now let's do that first one we did, right? That was a lady. So just to be fair, right? I'm going to show a Nigerian police officer a lady too. Her uniform is clean, so it doesn't look like I went to go select the worst of it.
Hmm.
This will show you that I'm not being biased with whatever. But let me just show you what I need to show you. Okay, so this is a Nigerian police officer, right? Her outfit is not bad. All she just have to include now, you see the gun she has on her side, that is fine. All she has to include now is that belt and that vest, right? Let's watch it
Yeah.
first before I analyze.
When you see me, when you see me, I'm the VIP on your body.
So all she has to do now is wear that belt that can hold taser, hold a gun, wear a bulletproof that carries more magazine, that carries gloves, that carries torn kits like the one you use to stop bleeding in a gunshot wound, right? uh, Cuffs, the key of the cuffs, and also a body camera on here, right? A body camera. So these are the things that can be incorporated into the uniform. As she is now, this is not really bad of a uniform, to be honest with you. I think this is really clean, and police officers should be this clean, but they just have to add other accessories to her body. What do you think?
Yeah, basically, those accessories are very important because like even the pepper spray. Those your guys over there, they get to use pepper spray sometimes if it's needed. So you need to have those uh, the garments that as in contains that you can put those necessary things into, and it makes you look more professional regarding a police officer and the rest of it. So, like you rightly mentioned, they need to get that, you know, probably even the bulletproof vest. All those things are very, very necessary, but we don't get to see them here that often.
Yeah, that's so true. Now let's go back to the video. Uh, let's go back to the debate we were watching before. So I'd like us to listen a little bit to Charles.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. GD,
Yeah, go on.
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go on.
But I do not hear anything you're saying. No, it's not audible. That's the video you're playing.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
All right, let's see. Let me know if you can hear me. If you can you hear it now? Kesley, can you hear the
I still cannot
video?
hear it. No, I cannot hear it. I can hear you, but I cannot hear the video.
What's happening? Okay. Let me bring it back on again. Maybe what about now? Can you hear it? Kesley, can
I
you
still
hear the
cannot hear
video?
it. I still cannot hear it.
What about now?
I still cannot hear it. I can hear you, but I cannot hear the video.
Well, I don't know why though. But what he's talking about though is actually he's saying it's still part of the things you said about the details that have not been hashed out, right? He's saying
Yeah.
the revenue aspect that the state gives to the federal government. The federal government still takes 51% from the revenue generated from the state, while the state goes with 27%. Meaning, with 27%, they will not be able to cover the cost of state policing. That the revenue aspect needs to be addressed, meaning the money going to the federal government has to be reduced, and that of the state has to be increased in order for the state to cover up this responsibility. What's your take on that?
Well, basically, the sharing formula is basically, I don't know the right word to use. It's absurd. They get to generate revenues from the state, and they remit to the federal uh, coffer, and the federal get to determine what goes back to the state in terms of allocations and the rest. And some states don't even generate enough revenue to even cover for their internal uh, expenditures, and they still need to remit to the federal. So, like you mentioned before we even started, the you know proper federalism. We need to decipher this particular thing because it's becoming a very very bad. Well, if I'm producing something and I'm not benefiting from it, it becomes an issue for me to even continue producing and benefiting from what I'm producing. You bring oil from your states, pollution gets to happen. Like take for instance the Niger Delta, for instance, those uh, waters that have been polluted, but they remit the money straight to the federal coffer, and federal will not share it to even those that are not even going through what the citizens or the locals in that particular region are going through. So all those things need to just come into place. Like you mentioned that he's saying about the money is being sent to the federal coffer, 51% is huge. And you need to pay your own salaries at the state level. You need to run your security at the state level. You need to education at the state level, cleanliness at the state level, the health sector at your state level. So all those things need to they need to see how they will work around all these aspect of things to know what the sharing formula ought to be, because the way it is very poor. I think it's the oil producing states. I think they get to give them, is it on 27%, or is it 13 or thereabout? I'm not even very certain about that particular sharing formula. So all these things need to be put in place for you to determine most of these things. That's why I say it's not time for most of these things that they are trying to do, like the state police. They
I
need to
think
just
it's
sit
time for
down.
state police. It's just that they don't have the right approach to it. I think state police has been because if you really want to practice a true federalist system, right? The state is supposed to
Yeah.
have its own court, have its own district. So there are so many things that need to be restructured. But I want you to listen to DiCarlo. DiCarlo raised a very pertinent point, the political aspect of it that we've not talked of since I choose for us not to talk about it until now. This is going to be the last video we'll watch on this issue. Then before we proceed to give on our my own um safeguard that can be put in place to prevent governors and politicians from abusing state police. So let's listen to Odikalo.
Much, Mayoga,
You can hear it
and
now, right?
good
Yeah, I
afternoon,
can hear
sir.
you. Yeah.
I guess I should adopt the existing line and say I extend my appreciation to His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Shiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for his courage in giving us this bill. If I could sing, I will sing on your mandate. But since my voice is very bad, let me begin by, now there's a gap here, and there's a reason for it. It's actually for the Nigerian public officers who have elected to abandon ship so that this will be a conversation of irrelevance. That's why I've refused to move closer, because they need to be represented in this conversation as ongoing stakeholders. This conversation is so significant that citizens are not invited to the table. So it's a conversation among politicians, fixing for themselves their own instruments of power. That's the first thing. So when I listen to these
I need you to respond. I need you to respond to what he just said that this whole charade of state police is
You
just
know, I mentioned it earlier.
correct.
You know, I mentioned it earlier.
Right. And I told you we'll get to
Citizens,
it. So I want you to talk about it now.
can you hear me?
I can hear you go on.
Okay. You know, I mentioned earlier that the citizens were not brought into play in this whole conversation. They just did it within themselves, you know, the red chamber and the green chamber, they just, you know, sit down and just enact laws that does not carry along those that even elected them into the position. So all of these things is what I think he is trying to make mention of. So if we, the citizenry, are not made to participate in this, then there's not going to be any progress. We are going to, because they will not be the one. You know, the funny thing is that they are not going to be the ones to police us, because we are the ones that are going to be employed in quotes now to police ourselves in quotes, and in extension police them or help them or guard them whenever they are coming into our territory in quotes, in our territory in quotes, like maybe visiting. You know, during election they want to always associate with the people. So when they are coming, if we, our own aspect of things, or the way we see things, or our own reasoning are not incorporated into whatever law they are trying to make to guide us or to control us in quotes now, because that's the word control. We try to control everybody. If we don't participate in, or we don't contribute into that law, then at the end of the day, the law is going to be flawed. They can just sit there in their eye us and try to make things the way they want it to be or reason it to be. But if we are not brought into play, then success is not going to be achieved. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Okay. Well, but I agree with him though. I think we're not bringing the citizens who are going to be affected if things go wrong into the conversation, meaning politicians are just looking for things to protect themselves because they know that the poverty is pushing the citizens to the wall. They know that insecurity is coming close to the home, and now they are just trying to create state police that they can use to protect themselves, not to protect life and property. So let's listen to him some more.
Politicians here talk about, give us examples from America and from all of that. I want us to start by acknowledging this is a uniquely Nigerian conversation. That's why there are no public officers, they've run away. So let's not fool ourselves. And I want to make 5 very quick clarifications along those lines. Number one, we are talking about reforming the most fundamental power of a state in election season. We're in election season, and we're talking of reforming the most significant power of the state without debate. So this morning, we've learned that there are, in fact, 2 different versions of the bill going through the National Assembly.
So my question to you is that since Tinubu have up to like 34 governors on his side, do you think he's actually creating this state police that would enable the governors to help him rig the next election, knowing fully well that Nigerians are really angry with his kind of governance and where the country is at right now? Do you think that is a plot for 2027? That's why they are rushing the state police bill.
Well, I want to disagree. You know why I say I would want to disagree? All of these things, definitely they will be training. And the election is just is it not February? I think
so.
February, yeah.
January or February, I can't remember. I think it's February.
Yeah. So I want to disagree with that because the time frame is too short for them to train and, bring them into the system or, I doubt that election rigging aspect of things. Yes, we have their channels already readily available for them, but using the state police, I think I would not want to agree on that particular rigged election because they still need to go through training, and before they train and disperse them to different locations and the rest of it. So I would not want to think towards that direction. But anything is possible in Nigeria, but personally, I would not want to think towards that direction.
Okay, let's proceed.
Assembly. An executive bill passed by the Senate and a different one passed by the National Assembly. No citizen has seen those bills nor participated in reviewing them, as citizens are entitled to do. If we are talking about using the police to protect citizens, and citizens are not part of it, who will the politicians be doing business with? Bandits and terrorists? Are they the interlocutors that the politicians will be doing business with? Why are they so afraid of citizens that none is invited to the table? They tell us that before the legislative proposals were considered, they had consultations with citizens. Why are there no citizens seeing the draft proposals and making inputs into them? Now, the other point is this. We are talking about governors as chief security officers of the states. And everything is being done in the framework of security. Let's remind ourselves, the police is a law enforcement institution. There's a difference in the Nigerian scheme between security and law enforcement. It's such an easy distinction to miss. Why do I say so? Under our scheme, nobody here has cited Section 315 of the Constitution. It preserves 4 different pieces of legislation. One is the National Security Agencies Act. Under Section 2 of the National Security Agencies Act, primary responsibility for internal security in Nigeria is not with the police. It is with the State Security Service. The governors are not complaining that we should decentralize State Security Service. They are complaining they should own the police. These are governors who have never funded their ministry.
But this is where I disagree with Odikalu, right? Having a state police does not mean the governor is owning the police. There are going to be laws, there are going to be things that will protect the citizens from the governors abusing state police. Let me go through some of those things that can be put in place that would help mitigate some of those things, right? One of them is this. Let me just read some things for you that I wrote down. Uh, First of all, these are the kind of abuse, right? Possible abuse of state police, right? A governor could use the state police to arrest opposition politician on questionable charge, disrupt opposition rally, harass campaign workers during election. They can also use state police to intimidate voters, prevent opposition supporters from voting, protect ballot manipulation. They can do illegal arrest and detention. Citizens who criticize the governor could be arrested without sufficient evidence, held beyond legal limits, charged with fabricated offenses. Suppression of free speech. Journalists, activists, and bloggers could face threats, intimidation, arrest over criticism of the government. Ethnic and religious bias. Police could favor the governor's ethnic group, political supporters, particular religious community. Extortion and corruption. Without proper oversight, officers could set up illegal checkpoints, demand bribes, protect political connected criminals. Private security for governors. Instead of serving the public, state police could become personal bodyguards, enforcer against public rival. These are the things we actually talked about that could be used, that could be abused with the state police, right? Now, let me give you some policies that could prevent abuses. It's not like you'll be able to prevent all the abuses completely, right? You cannot. But this is what can be done. In the State Police Commission, the governor should not have sole authority over appointment or discipline. The commission should include judge, the state legislature, the Nigeria Bar Association, civil society organization, traditional and religious leader where appropriate. This will reduce political control, right? The commission, they should create an independent state police commission that would involve all these different bodies. Fixed term police commissioner. The police commissioner should serve a fixed term. For example, 5 years. After 5 years, you get out. Only be removed for defined legal reason, like if he's found wanting for bribery or anything or bias, then he can be removed by legal means. Require approval from State House of Assembly or an independent commission for removal. This make it harder for a governor to replace leaders, uh, that police leaders for political reasons. Federal constitutional oversight. The federal government should retain authority over treason, terrorism, national election, human trafficking, kidnapping that cross state line. Look at the word of kidnapping that cross state line, organized crime, right? So those are the things the federal government can continue to have authority over when it comes to crime that is committed in state, right? If a treasonous crime was committed in state, terrorism, all this kind of thing, right? Independent civilian compliant board. Citizens should have an independent body where they can report police brutality, illegal arrest, political intimidation, and corruption. The board should have the authority to investigate and recommend disciplinary action or prosecution. Strong judicial oversight. Judges should review warrants independently, enforce penalty for unlawful detention, award compensation for violation of constitutional rights. An independent judiciary is a key for this kind of safeguard in order for politicians not to abuse state police. Criminal penalty for political misuse. The Constitution or enabling law should make it a criminal offense for any governor or public official to use state police to intimidate voters, target political opponents, suppress lawful protests, interfere with election. Conviction could carry, like if it happened, conviction of those officers or whoever is found wanting should carry prison sentence, removal from office, disqualification from holding public office ever again. I'm almost done. Oh. Transparent recruitment. Recruitment should be merit based, not nepotic based. Use standardized examination. reflect the diversity of the state population, be monitored by an independent commission. This will reduce patronage and favorism. Body camera and digital evidence. Body worn camera for officers in public interaction, GPS tracking of patrol vehicles. That way, they will not be able to steal government vehicles. Digital recording of arrest and interrogation. When you are interrogating people in the interrogation room, there should be video of it. I don't know why Nigerian people will allow police to interrogate people without videoing it. That is where you give them purpose and you give them room to torture people and call it interrogation. This creates evidence that can help resolve complaints because with this transparent kind of evidence gathering or interrogation process, it will be very clear to help convict any crime that was committed. Then legislative oversight. The State House of Assembly, that's the State House of Assembly, should approve the police budget. It shouldn't come from federal anymore. Hold public oversight hearing. Summon police leadership to answer questions. Publish annual performance and accountability report. Okay. Second to the last. The federal government, together with institutions such as National Human Rights Commission, could conduct periodic audit of state police agencies. Remember what I told you that before. States with repeated serious violation could face sanction, including temporary federal intervention where authorized by law. Then this is conclusion finally. Additional safeguard. Other measures that could strengthen accountability includes mandatory human rights training for officers, which you said, which is like continuous training, public reporting of arrest, complaint, and use of force incident, whistleblower protection for officers who report misconduct, limit on emergency power exercised by governors, clear rules protecting peaceful protests and freedom of the press. In conclusion, state police can improve local security and responsiveness if they are properly designed, but they also carry risk if political leaders can control them without meaningful oversight. A balanced model could combine local policing with strong independent institution, judicial review, legislative oversight, transparency, and legal penalty for misuse. Those safeguards are essential to help ensure that state police serve the purpose rather than interest of any particular governor or political party. What's your take on what I just read?
Well, you made a lot of salient and good points, and
We can't see your
I
face, so
I said you made a lot of salient and good points in everything you just listed. But the particular thing I want to talk about is the nepotism part of it. Nepotism. That is going to be a very big issue because most of them are going to be using their own inner caucus to maybe probably recruit and run this particular state police that they are planning for. That's why I keep saying yes, it is needed, but this is the wrong time for it to happen. So all the points you made, everything you
your
said,
camera does slant again. Adjust your camera.
can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see it. It does slant again. What was happening?
Okay. I said, like I was saying, the nepotism part of things is just where the issues are because most of them are going to be using their cronies, their friends, those family members who going to be running the state police as it were. And at the end of the day, they will be recruiting their friends also. That's you now, you're using me, you are the governor, you're using me as your maybe probably your good friend, and I will be employing or hiring those close to me also. At the end of the day, we end up answering to you. at every point in time, whatever you want is what we'll be doing. If you say go and pick up this person, we'll go and pick the person up. So those are the issues that we are going to be facing. So the control, like you mentioned, is going to be the issue. So if, like you listed all those good set of ways we can control and make the whole thing work, but how can you control a governor if you're not the president? So all those things are things that I think they need to sit down first. Like I have been saying since, they need to sit down first and put in place before anything happens. Because you rightly mentioned, making the gadget readily available and the rest of it. But nepotism is a very big issue in Nigeria, very big one in Nigeria. So if we don't control the nepotism part of things, then we will fail in what we are trying to do. So those are the things I think basically that needs to be put in place first by those doing or enacting the law before approval so that they can get it right. If not, they are not going to get it right. These guys are going to be tools in the hands of the governors. So we need to get that particular aspect of things right first before anything.
Thank you. Well, you want to give your closing remark? Then I close my remarks and we'll call it a day.
All right, well, I think, like I've been saying, it's not the right time for the state police. Yeah, we need it, but this is not the right time. Let them go back to the drawing board, get the people involved, and get the contributions of the people before enacting any law regarding state policing. If not, we will not get it right. Basically, that will be it.
Thank you. Well, I think it's a welcome development. I think if it's going to be enacted, it should be enacted properly. It should be something that should be debated on, not rushed into. I think it will help curb insecurity if properly enacted. But if not properly enacted, it's going to be um, detrimental to the citizens. So I think they should have more conversation. They should invite people like us to come and give contribution if possible. They should invite citizens who it has affected in the past, your camera, who it has affected in the past, what they would like to see in their policing and all. And I'd like them to change their gadget. I'll prefer them to be two in a vehicle and also two in a vehicle and be everywhere patrolling. Don't park one place, drive around. And the culture of having a drunk police officer on duty or a weed smoking police officer on duty, those things should be stopped. They should be given proper training. They should check their psychology, their temperament, so you don't put psychopaths in power and give them guns to start to bully the citizens. So let's see how it goes. I think this would work if only they can do it the right way. But Nigeria now, everything they do, they never do it the right way. Let's hope this one will be different. And I don't think every state should adopt the same policing policy. Why your camera not the stand where again? The whole under slack. Well,
Let it
thank you
on
all for
slack.
watching. We're gonna bring you guys more updates on this issue. You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you. Take care, Sake.
No, Allah. We'll talk.
All right.